قوما فاسقين والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون والأرض فرشناها فنعم الماهدون ومن كل شيء خلقنا زوجين لعلكم تذكرون ففروا إلى الله إني لكم منه نذير مبين ولا تجعلوا مع الله إلها آخر إني لكم منه نذير مبين كذلك ما أتى الذين من قبلهم من رسول إلا قالوا ساحر أو مجنون أتواصوا به بل هم قوم طاغون فتول عنهم فما أنت بملوم وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون إن الله يأخذ القوة المتين فإن للذين مثل ذنوب أصحابهم فلا يستعجلون فويل للذين كفروا من يومهم الذي يوعدون.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. The central theme of Surah Al-Dhariyat revolve around the relationship between Allah and the mankind, between Allah and us. Allah provide, in the surah, Allah shows that Allah provide everything necessary for humans to sustain their lives on earth. While humans are tasked with to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we fulfill this, Allah is a provider for everything we need to sustain life on earth. Our responsibility is to worship Him. If we do this, then Allah will reward us with promise us an eternal life in paradise. That is the agreement that Allah has with us. So the surah begins by 4 oaths, highlighting actually the means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deliver provisions and sustenance to us, to humanity. So it means this, how Allah deliver it by winds, by clouds, by oceans, and by angels. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وَقْرًا فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَصَادِقٌ وَإِنَّ الدِّينَ لَوَاقِعٌ. So Allah started make this oath by the wind that's scattering far and wide, by those clouds that carry heavy load. What's the heavy load that the cloud carry? Is the water, is the rain. With those ships that glide with ease for your transportation, and those angels who distribute things, whatever you are promised will surely true. Whatever we promised is paradise, we brought support, we promise success, we promise, all resources and so on. And the recompense will surely happen. So yes, and the return, then there will be a reward, will be also a recompensation, whatever good. If you did good, you know the results. If you did bad, you know the results. Then, it's one of these things. There is one ayah here, frankly. It seems like people do not believe that Allah subhanahu, their sustenance and their provision in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If somebody does not believe what you tell them, what do? You make an oath. You said, Wallahi, this is true, isn't it? Can you imagine that Allah subhanahu is making an oath to us, that this is really true, and he making almost that oath to us to believe it. So when you read this, actually, he said, these humans are so stupid and so arrogant, frankly. I mean, how Allah tell you this and you still don't believe in it? Then what's happening? Then Allah, you force Allah to swear that this is true. Subhanallah. So when we look to this, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, and in the heavens, there is your sustenance and all what you are promised. This is a statement. Then people will say, oh, well, is it really true? Then Allah subhanahu, فَوَرَبِّ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ إِنَّهُ لَحَقٌّ. So Allah subhanahu making, then by the Lord of the heavens and the earth, it is true. Yani Allah made the statement of السماء رزقكم وما توعدون. Okay, that's enough for me. But no, because Allah subhanahu know that people who read the Quran and still have doubt, then Allah make that oath. فَرَبِّ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ إِنَّهُ لَحَقٌّ. By the Lord of the heavens and the earth, this is true, as fact as you speak. كَمَا أَنْتُمْ تَنْطِقُونَ. So this is really one of these, probably most powerful oaths, frankly, in the Quran. When I read it, I said, Allah doesn't have to prove to me and swear by himself that this is going to happen. But you look at people, the people think, even Muslim really truly believe that everything in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them, they wouldn't behave this way. So how Allah provide us the risk? Allah provide the risk. There is two ways to provide the risk. One risk, which is unconditional risk. You have nothing to do with it. And this will be like air. I mean, without air is a risk, because without air, we will all die. It's water. We don't create the water. Water exists. So these are things that Allah provide basically without any effort from our side. Now there's a conditional risk. A conditional risk that require effort to obtain it. That Allah subhanahu put things in the ground for us. But we have then to learn how to be able to process it, how to handle, how to extract it. All minerals, oil and gas, you name it, water, even water, because your water might be in places of rain and you have to do an effort to deliver it to your homes and wherever you want it. Some seawater, you might have to do some processing for it, to desalinize it and so on. So Allah subhanahu, keep it, and that's an effort. What is that effort that comes in? Because that's your role as a human being. I'll provide you something and your role to take advantage of it too, Then Allah subhanahu, so here is Allah. Allah provided us all of the means, as I said, the sustenances, and for soul for one purpose. What is the purpose? Is to worship Him. And this is why Allah subhanahu, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ رِزْقًا وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ يُطْعِمُونَ. I have not created the jinn and mankind but to worship me. I do not seek provision from them, because Allah is a provider for provision for them. And nor I would ask it to feed them, ask Him to feed me. So the question really, so to fulfill our role on earth, what we have to do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the ibadah. You worship me. But what is this ibadah encompass? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. When He first created us, He said what? He said, I'm going to create a Khalifa on earth. So what is the Khalifa? It's a person who is entrusted as a steward over the earth, and therefore he be the one responsible for developing its resources for the benefit of humanity. And this development and this effort should be aligned with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the ibadah. You have to basically, Allah created these resources available for everybody to use, and then your role as a believer to develop them, process them, discover them, and make it available to people to benefit from it, but do it according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it require then? It requires that you have to have knowledge. If Allah created for you for oil and gas, all of the minerals, you have to have knowledge. about how you explore for them, how you produce them, how to refine them to become valuable material for people to use. That is your role as a person whom Allah selected as to be a Khalifa, steward on earth in this regard. But this effort, when you explore, when you develop, when you don't monopolize this. You don't become, I discovered it's me. It's for me. No, it's Allah provided for all humanities. And they make you the leader, the one responsible for this, if you truly believe as part of your worshiping Him, to deliver it to them. Who cannot do it, you do it for them. You know. And this is why it's an interesting. You know what is the zakah for mineral, for things that you do? We always say the zakah is 2.5%, 2.5%. It's not 2.5% only. Actually, it's 20%. For anything that you discover, all of the oil and gas in the world that Muslim own, 20% of it should go to zakah. You know. And you know, there's 10%. If you are, you know, if you have a land and you cultivate, if the land is watered by rain only, then you pay 10% zakah on what they produce. If you are working hard and dig it and, you know, water it by yourself, then you take 5%. You know, this is created an issue that, you know, between, like most people, you know, do not have land. I don't know how many people have land here. But people worry about the zakah, like if you have 401k, stocks, bond, you know, I'm not going to say bonds because some people say it's halal, haram, don't worry about it. That's not my issue here. But you have stocks, for example. What do you pay zakah for? How do you pay zakah for it? Do you pay, you know, because now if you treat zakah like a like, you know, land, production of land, then do you pay 2.5%, you pay 5%, or you pay 10%? If you take all your money in the stocks and consider your assets, then you pay 2.5% of that money, okay? But what happens if I'm investing this money in stocks that give me return, that I live on the dividend of it, you know? What do you pay? You pay 10% of the dividend, not in the assets, on the dividend. And if you are the one who is investing, you know, do the studies and so on and select it, then you pay 5%. If you are a day trader, one of these sell and buy, do you pay 5% and 2.5% or 10%? You pay 2.5% in the total because it's an investment now. You know, you buying, it's almost like money, like buying gold and selling gold and so on. It's become an asset. So it's a very interesting how you do it but my point is that everything Allah creates, it belongs to everybody. Yes, you earn the effort to get the reward from Allah and you get the money to do it, but you cannot take it by yourself. You know the sad part about it? That all of the oil and gas in the Muslim world are discovered by whom? So, so that tell you how good, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that's your role to discover it, process it, and for helping humanity. We sit down once just to collect the money and do nothing. So anyway, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide, you know, I said all of what you do should be guided by the commands of Allah to do two things: to ensure justice and spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's it. If you want to really serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do two things. You establish justice and you spread his message. You deliver his message to people who did not receive it. In order to deliver the message and to establish justice, you need resources. You need to be strong and powerful. You need to be a leader in all things, you know. So if you do this, then that is where taqwa becomes in. Then Allah will promise you then paradise in this case. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and says now in this that, you know, if you have this God consciousness in all what you do, then in that case, إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ. Then in that case, you are one of those people who have taqwa, and Allah guaranteed you garden and spring. آخذين ما آتاهم ربهم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك محسنين. You know, receiving what the Lord have given them, indeed they were before muhsinin. What is ihsan? Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you're seeing Him, and if you don't see Him, you know that He is seeing you. So the ihsan is doing a perfect job as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. Because you are guardian. Allah appointed you to be guardian on earth, and He's watching you. He owns it. And your responsibility has certain function to do it. So the ihsan have to come from the taqwa. Remember, we talked about this last time. What is the taqwa? The taqwa has two elements in it. An inward element, which is the belief that you know that Allah is watching you, and the outer element, which is the ihsan, that your action that comes out of the taqwa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ مُحْسِنِينَ. Their action was perfect. Why? Because they have this degree of ihsan, this excellence of ihsan. And the taqwa is the always consciousness of Allah. They're always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drive that action for excellence and act for it. Then Allah described additional things for them. He said, كانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون. They want to reinforce their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by what? By standing كانوا قليلا, and they were, just sleep a little at night and spend it for night prayer. Because the night prayer is amazing, actually. Remember when Islam first came? There wasn't during the day prayer. The Muslims were standing all night, most of the night praying. Because at night, that's when you get the maximum effect in your soul and reinforce your belief. So it's very important. Actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, oh, if you are a muttaqi and you are going to be a muhsin, then you should, used to sleep but a little at night because they spend the other one, do it for prayer. وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. And the hour before the dawn, they ask for forgiveness. Like now, the dawn is what? 5 to 6 or something, or 10 to 6. You can at least wake a little bit and do istighfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And their wealth and their money, there is a right. Isn't interesting, actually? We call it a charity, when you give somebody a sadaqah. Yes, it is a sadaqah. But when Allah described it, He said, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. There have those people who ask and those people who are deprived, they have right in your money. Because Allah is the one helped you to get this money, And therefore, He didn't help them because He using you to deliver it to them. Therefore, they have right in your money. So don't ever, somebody ask for something, they think you are doing him a favor. No, you are not doing him a favor. You are delivering to him when Allah, wants to give him, but give him through you, and they give you the reward for it, So, it's one of these things, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we do what Allah wants to do, because the definition of this ibadah, sometime, as I said, I don't think, when I was doing this, and I'm going to discuss it a little bit more detailed, you said, what is really, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, al-muttaqina fi jannatin wa ayun, and tell us about the attributes of those muttaqin. What is the attribute? They spend a little of the night, they spend most of the night praying. They seek forgiveness in the dawn. They share from their money. Isn't this part of the ibadah? This is part of worship, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, those are the people who's going to go to paradise. So if you want to know what ibadah is, find out what the people whom Allah guaranteed them paradise doing it, and then assemble it and you will find it. Whom Allah guaranteed to go paradise in the Quran, al-muttaqin, al-mu'minun, ibadur rahman, all what you do, and all of them has action to do. Yes, have a beliefs, but also have action to do. So all of this, you can assemble all of these and come. Inshallah, we'll talk about it. And this is part of when I remember I gave the talk about the tadabbur of Quran through the lens of, through the lens of key terms. Ibadah is a term that has to be defined. Because frankly, as I said, when you look to all of the definitions, all of the scholars say it is obedience to Allah. It's an encompassing, term that involves all of the obedience and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said, well, tell me what, obeying who what? Because and when we translate it like worship, We think, oh, ibadah is mainly the fasting, the prayer, the hajj, and so on, these rituals. I said, this is the ibadah, you know. So, so I said, the resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have placed on the earth is placed it for everyone in this regard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is, and I said for the soul worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, Inna Allah wa razzaqu dhul quwwati al-mateen. Now, Allah is indeed is a provider, the possessor of all might, the most firm. Now, how people react to the resources? There's two ways. One who is really a true believer, when Allah blessed him with knowledge and information and the resources developed, he knew that this is Allah put him for the benefit of everybody. Another person, what he does, he wants to take it for himself and said, it's me. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, then Allah put the punishment. He said, then Allah show, in Allah Razzaq, Allah put the first verse here, Allah is the provider, the possessor of all might. Then Allah said, فَإِنَّ لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا ذَنُوبًا مِثْلَ ذَنُوبِ أَصْحَابِهِمْ فَلَا يَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But those people now who do wrong, by taking what this risk and claiming it only for themselves, then what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, their turn will be like the turn they have doing wrong, and their return will be like the return of those people who preceded them. So they should not worry, they should not hasten what's going to happen to them. It's going to happen to them. فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ يَوْمِهِمْ الَّذِي يُعَدُونَ. And Allah woe to those who disbelieved from the day that they have been promised, from the day that they were promised, which obviously the day of judgment, for the punishment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the zulm now comes in, al-kufr comes in for preventing people from actually getting the resources or the sustenance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided to them. That's why you look at this world. Everybody tell you this. The amount of food available in the world satisfy not only 10 billion, satisfy 20 billion people. We don't shortage of the food. But people are starving. Why? Because of this monopoly. People acquire it and don't want to share it, with others. Yeah. So then the surah continue. Actually, the interesting in the Quran many times, and I told you, I truly believe in this, that the Quran is a tools for building the cognitive capacity, intellectual capacity of the young Muslims to be leaders, because you cannot deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless you are a leader. You're a leader in technology, you're a leader in finance, you're a leader in everything. You have money and have power. That's what it is. People always follow the person who has money and power. So how are you going to deliver it if you lack both? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so many verses in the Quran that how you develop knowledge, how you make you inquisitive, how you always look for information. Don't just listen when close your eyes and mind and don't think that's it. There's so many verses in the Quran that do this, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to encourage people to be inquisitive. And subhanallah, and we try to suppress our kids not to be inquisitive. You should, because look, Sayyidina Musa, wasn't he inquisitive when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me see you? He was. Did Allah told him, how dare you are to ask me to see me? Who are you? You are a slave. No. Allah told him, if the mountain survives, then you will see me. You tell him that, no, it's not that I cannot be seen, it's just you don't have the power to see me. Sayyidina Ibrahim, why ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, show me how you create, resurrect from the. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell him, then Allah asked him, did you believe? He said, yeah, I believe, but I want to know how. I want to know the process by which you do. Allah did Allah tell him, okay, it's enough for you that you believe. I mean, this is really amazing. You tell kids who comes in once and say, oh, it's enough for you this. No, it's not enough. Allah didn't tell Ibrahim it's enough for you. He told him, do this experiment, and through this experiment, you will know how I resurrected the people from this. Now, if you're sitting with your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter, you should sit down and say, what did Sayyidina Ibrahim understood from this experiment? And what did we understand? You know, because if the all the conclusion is that everything Allah kun fayakun, that experiment would not have been done this way. Because Allah subhanahu could have told him, okay, bring a chicken, slaughter it, cut it in pieces, and I'm saying kun come alive, and would come alive. But did Allah tell him this? Didn't tell him. They tell him get birds, bring them close to you, صرهن إليك, and then put them in the mountain and call them. It's a process. And Sayyidina Ibrahim said, oh yeah, this is how Allah. Now it's up to us to figure it out, for it. Then Allah subhanahu in this surah, Allah subhanahu talk about so many different kind of sciences, actually knowledge. Everyone requires some, a person can specialize in it. Because Allah subhanahu talk about the winds, talk about the clouds, talk about the oceans. And did all of these require, people who study astronomy, people who study geology, people who study biology. And then Allah, the surah which I mentioned this morning, وَالسَّمَاء وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And build wrong here. It's the sky or the heaven or the universe. The sama is anything above the earth, everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, we have built it with might and we are the expander of it. وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا فَنِعْمَ الْمَاهِدُونَ. And the earth we spread it out, and how excellent we have smoothed it. And then وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And from everything we have created bears, so that you can take heed. So here look, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this 3 ayat? Talk about the universe, everything above us, talk about the earth, and talk about biology, physics, everything, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say everything has created from bears. This is all science, We think, oh, bear is just a man and woman. No, the ayah doesn't say man and woman. He said everything has bears in it, Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. And then if you understand that this is me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking, if I was the one who did all of this for you, you should actually have flee to me. You should come to me. You be running toward me, because I am in control of everything, And then I said, and I am warner. This is a clear warning for you. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ. And don't make other gods alone goes Allah. Indeed, I am a clear warner to you from him. Now, as I said, when you look at these verses, it really, look at this. Study it with your child. وَالسَّمَاءُ بَيْنَهَا بَعِيدًا وَإِنَّا مُوسِعُونَ. The universe is expanding. I told you this. In 1922, Einstein, actually, I mentioned it. Everybody attended the Fajr. Okay, so you heard what I said. Anyway, he have actually, it's really amazing because sometimes even great scientists, they can be forced to do something, to make mistake because of the norm that everybody believe in. So Einstein, when he have formulated the general relativity theory, he came actually with an equation. I was going to put the equation, but doesn't matter. Really, you can search for it. And he showed that actually the universe is expanding. But what he did, the people at that time said the universe is stationary. So what he did, he imposed the constant in it, which cosmological constant, and you look at the equation actually that he did, you find it. And then what he did, there is a Russian, mathematician, a young guy, who came and he said, no, the universe is expanding. He wasn't, controlled by the norm. And they said the universe is expanding. Or Einstein forced this constant. The equation doesn't ask for it. So why are you forcing it? Now we know the Earth is, universe is expanding. Now the question is it is expanding? Is the expansion increasing or decreasing? Is the rate of expansion is increasing or decreasing? Okay, everybody say it's increasing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say it's going to stop. لَمُوسِعُونَ, that means a continuous, It could be the same, it could be increasing, it could be decreasing. The normal scientist, until probably in the 2000, was always saying that because of the gravitational force, it's good, the rate is decreasing, and at some point is going to stop. That's the common. Then until there's three guys, which is Saul Bermlometer and the Brian Schmidt and the Adam Rees, they came in and they studied, supernova cosmology, and they came and said, no, the rate of expansion is increasing. It's not going to stop. And they won Nobel Prize in 2011 in physics. So, I mean, here's a question: if you were like born in you're born in the 40s or something, and you graduated in the 60s, you could have read this and said, I better study physics. What is this? Is it the universe is expanding continuously or decreasing, or what happened? And you could have won Nobel Prize too. Not you, but somebody else would have won. But Allah gave us the hint, frankly, to it. It's not why Allah put it in, you know. If you don't understand it, how do you know that this is awe of Allah? How you really appreciate Allah? Just by saying Allah is a creator? But Allah giving us all of these things, because the more you study it, the more you really feel, subhanallah, you do this. But if you don't, then you don't benefit from it. So the other actually subject also that discovered, the earth. Because Allah, وَالْأَرْضُ فَرَشْنَاهَا, can you imagine if the whole earth is rocky? Who spread this earth? There is parts of the earth that has a fertile soil in it and so on that people can plant it. Isn't that, or did we do it? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that did it. Yes, it has mountain for a purpose, but also I flatten certain things for you because that's how you can survive, and the plant things in it. Now the other one, وخلقنا من كل زوج ومن كل شيء خلقنا زوجين, the bears. Now, if you look at this, you see about everything has two, positive charge and negative charge. Even if you look, anything atoms, also come bears. Even quarks, which they said the smallest thing, there is bears. There's up quark and up quark and down quark. Even matters. They said a matter and antimatter. I mean, that direct. Where is this comes from? This has come from people who studying the universe. And Allah subhanahu, if it comes and says you do this, you should, I told you the information. Now figure out the application. That's how you advance and lead the world. The other one, which is very interesting, that Allah subhanahu created for us, like we talked about the wind, the water, and so on. If every material, when you cool it down, what is going to happen to it? It shrink. Isn't it true? Everything that you cool down shrink, except water. When you try to freeze the water, it expands. Can you imagine if the water properties is the same like every other material? We wouldn't survive. You know why? Because when the water freezes, it floats, because if the expand, that means the density goes down, that means it floats. That's why the ice floats. Now imagine now if the water is freezing and then it started up falling down, that means it's going, the whole ocean will freeze, then will destroy, kill everything. But because Allah subhanahu wa make that change the properties of the water, that it will act as an insulation. Yes, the temperature is minus 50, 60 or whatever it is, but the water is still under it, is still the fish survive and everything. Now, who changed this? Just the change. Why the water, this properties? For our survival. That we also take it for granted. That's why when you put a Coke bottle or something in the refrigerator, what happened to it? It explodes, Why? Because it expands, Everything else shrink, but this one expands, Then when you recognize all of the, even by the way, even us, we're thinking about bears, how about our DNA? If you look the DNA, doesn't have double helix, I mean, so anyway, so Allah subhanahu wa comes and say, okay, if you do recognize this, what you do, then فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, then you should seek Allah and never worship anything by air. فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, yes, that's I'm underlining here. That's how you do. If you recognize all of this knowledge, all of the creation, all of what have done for you, then you should seek him and don't associate anybody with him and to trust him and believe him and worship him. Then we come now to the what is the worship then? Can we expand a little bit? If you look, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. So if I ask you now, I want to, as I said, what is your role as a Khalifa? We said to develop and utilize the resources that Allah provided for the benefit of humanity according to His commands, and acquire the means of power to establish universal justice and to remove barriers that hinder the delivery of Allah revealed the message and the sustenance to other people. So that's ibadah from a technical point of view. That's what, if I want to do, this is what I want to do, to be abid. But now we come to other things then. In order to be steward on the earth develop, you require knowledge. So a Muslim cannot be ignorant, cannot rely on other people, to develop things for him. They should be the one who develop it, in this regard. Yeah. So, but at least if you are going to be a abid, this is what you have. Because otherwise, what ibadah is just praying. Now, I said, if you want to look at a verse that tell you what is really the ibadah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, if you, to be a abd, what does the master do? The master buys somebody, and that person who bought is a slave. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I want you to sell yourself to me. To be my abd, you have to sell yourself to me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بَأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. That Allah indeed have bought from the believer their lives and their wealth in exchange of paradise. So if you want to paradise, to achieve paradise, what are you going to do? All your life and your money is dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not that you don't benefit from it, you benefit from it, obviously, but yet the same thing. So I said, how you define then a true habit, a genuine person who is a habit, that fulfill this ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We said to look at the definition of the people whom Allah basically describes. Who al-muttaqeen, who have Allah promised paradise. Because I said, if you sell yourself and money and wealth, Allah will promise you paradise. That will be exchange of paradise. So whom Allah guaranteed them paradise is the one who did this, who sold themselves and their wealth to Allah. Who they are the people who have taqwa, al-muttaqeen, those people who are believers, al-mu'minun, and those people بعباد الرحمن. At least these three clear definitions in the Quran. So if you want to know what it is, how are you abid or not, true doing ibadah or not, find what those people do and will identify them. Then I did this for you. And if you look at it, I assembled them in actually was 9 elements. If you want to be a true ibadah, it involves in this. And all of this supported by ayat from the Quran. So in that case, and I think I talked about al-muttaqeen, by the way, last time. Inshallah, next time we'll talk about al-mu'minun wa ibadur rahman. But because I'm talking ibadah, involved with them, I'll put the summary here. So one, faith and belief, which is the internal now, that they believe in Allah, the angel, the book, the messenger, and the day of judgment. You notice something missing in this first statement? Believe in Allah, the angel, the book, the messenger. What's missing? No, the decree. Isn't interesting? If you look in the Quran, when Allah described the belief, He doesn't put the decree, put the 5. We always say 6, but there's only 5. Allah wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rusuluhu wal yawm. واليوم الآخر. Subhanallah. But the decree is the one most people get confused about. You know, they say, oh, Allah decreed this for me. Why Allah will punish me? And you go through, الإنسان is مخير, مسير, whatever, all of these things. Make no distinction among the messengers. And then invoke no God beside Allah. Obviously, this is easy. We all have to agree with. Then the worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, part of those believers, and so Allah described for them, they do the prayer, they do the fasting, they do the hajj, they are regular in remembering Allah and the day of judgment. They trust in Allah and they have reverence in their prayer with khushu', including night prayer. They regularly engage with the Quran recitation and reflection to the dabbur of it, and then frequently remember Allah and praise the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Zikrullah, and obviously salatu ala nabi. Then seek forgiveness and seek for Allah forgiveness often and acknowledge His blessing. And then repent sincerely after sinning. Those people are not perfect. And Allah gave them, if you commit a sin, you are, just repent and I'll forgive you. And then charity and financial ethics. I said, give generously in a charity, spend wisely, and avoid extravagant and stinginess. All of this require condition for them. Avoid riba, gambling, and protect the wealth of others by documentation and so on. Then other element that you assemble also is character and morality. Speak truthfully, testify honestly, and use respectful language when you speak to anybody. Avoid arrogance, suspicion, backbiting, and insulting others. Maintain self-restraint, exercise patience, forgive others, and maintain contentment. Stay humble and respond peacefully to the ignorant people. Avoid and turn away from all of this useless talk and deeds. Community responsibility, enjoying what is right and forbid what's wrong, and avoid vain talks. Keep trust and the covenant faithfully. Trust anybody, trust you should be like a gold, you are trustworthy all the time. Seek permission when you enter other people and verify information before you act upon them. Justice and legal matters. Uphold the justice, maintain proper legal documentation, and ensure fair retribution, for crime. Look at this. These are the ibadah of Allah. This is when you do this, you really commit doing ibadah. It's not the worship. What's all of this? Unity and striving and support. Be prepared for jihad with wealth and life, supporting fellow believers, and strive to keep unity. Honor the sanctity of life. Now we look at this. Who's fighting with each other now? Even Syria was wild. Now Syria's fight again, killing each other again. And what's happening is everybody's manipulated by others. So, and this is lives, human lives being wasted, and nobody knows for what. And then personal conduct and family, maintain cleanliness. Physical cleanliness is specified, eat lawful food and restrain anger, avoid alcohol and preserve chastity. So these are assembled in this. You might be able, but the list is there, but you can probably assemble it in a different way, But something is very interesting. Okay, these are the things what you should do. How about the things what you shouldn't do? Do we have a list that Allah has specified for us, a list for things that we should not do? And then what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, if you avoid the major sins, I'll forgive the others. So now if I ask you, what are the major sins? Did the Quran spell out for us the major sins? I didn't want to, because of the time, to list all of the ayat. But these are the 14 major sins, and the ayat that refer to them is this. Obviously, the shirk is the first one. The second one, neglecting prayer, the prayer. This is something which unfortunately some Muslim, ignore it. But so neglecting prayer is a big deal, actually. Because that means, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell you, I want to set a time for you to come to me. And you said, oh no, I'm not interested. So how can you believe when you do this? And if you feel lazy, you should ask Allah subhanahu, give me strength. So Allah give me strength. Pray to Allah subhanahu to help you, to do it. Then murder, taking life unjustly, consuming usury, and riba also, but riba it is a subject of itself, how you define it, so. And then consuming the wealth of an orphan. If somebody, has a younger kids, he has an uncle or something, and, he can take care of the kids and he doesn't, squander their money. Adultery or fornication, slandering women, breaking a covenant, drinking alcohol or gambling, despairing from the mercy of Allah. So no matter what you do, you always ask for forgiveness from Allah, because you have to know that Allah subhanahu is merciful. Undutiful to parent, عقوق الوالدين. It's a major sin, severing the ties with kinship, being angry from relatives and don't speak to them, false testimony, and fleeing from the battle. The ayat next to them is there. If you go to the, I'm not sure, I think I did probably put it, yeah, but I'm saying is I put it in the detail of the ayat in the posting. I posted or not. I put the ayat, you looked at it, okay, good. But also it will go back in that section which I see about the terminologies and in it, So اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون احسنه. اللهم اوزعنا ان نشكر نعمتك التي انعمت علينا وعلى والدينا وان نعمل صالحا ترضاه. اللهم اصلح لنا في ذريتنا انا تبنا اليك واننا من المسلمين. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم فضلك ورحمتك على كلمه الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الاسلام وعز المسلمين يا اكرم الاكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves a garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, we have our son Ma'raj, our daughter Aisha Wani, our grandson Isa. Oh Allah, grant all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, we know that there is no cure but yours. Oh Allah, grant them a cure that leaves no ailment or injury. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are facing barbaric enemies, unjust world, and complacent Muslim nation. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperity and fulfill their needs. Oh Allah, we ask you every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.